Alright, as you guys can tell by the intro to this video, today we're going to be doing this super fire video in text effect. You see this effect all over social media, music videos, in travel vlogs. And before we go ahead and get straight into today's tutorial, I just want you to know that I provided a link to sample footage for you guys to download and use. This footage is from a recent trip that I went on with my girlfriend and her family. We went down to Seaside Heights in New Jersey. We got some really dope boardwalk footage with like the nice neon carnival lights and all that stuff. So if you need some footage to practice this effect on, definitely go check that out. The link to download that will be in the description. And one last thing before we get started, this effect looks way more complicated than it actually is. Trust me, it is super simple. So let's go ahead and jump straight into Premiere Pro and get started with today's video. I want to show you guys the effects, right? So I already have this from the sequence that I used in my video, my travel vlog. So what we have here is the effects with like the text on the screen, and I put a few different overlays on there, and the overlays are actually affecting the text itself. And then once the overlay kind of goes away, you see that there's now my footage playing within the actual text. So that's what we're going to be covering today in this tutorial. And it's very simple, just a few things, and you'll be able to elevate your videos and really make them pop, either for your videos or client work or whatever you are creating. So what we're going to do is we are going to make a new sequence. So if you don't know how to make a new sequence, go to your project bin, your project panel, right click, new item, sequence. You could do this with either 1080p or 4K. I will do a 1080p sequence. I like to make mine 24 frames per second, and I'll just name this demo. Okay. So now we got a new sequence. So the next thing that you want to do is you want to grab your footage. I already have my footage here, but what I want to do specifically is I want to have my footage to be cutting really fast. So I'm just going to go back into my already cut up sequence and just copy all of these clips and just paste them into my timeline. For you guys could just go ahead and find whatever clips you want. It could either be one, clip that you're going to be using. If you want to make it just like how I did, where it's like a very quick, fast-paced type of intro for your video, and all of the clips are like cutting really fast, make sure your clips are around 3 to 5 frames, and just make sure that they're all the same length, and then it'll just cut, and it helps build a lot of anticipation and really draws the viewer in, especially if you're trying to have this be like a intro to a short form video or for like a travel vlog or something like that. That'll really help out with grabbing the viewer's attention. So once you have all your footage cut up or your clips in the timeline, what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna highlight all of them and nest it. So now it's in its own nested sequence. Okay. And then what we're gonna do next is we're going to go up to graphics and titles, go to new layer, and we're going to go to text. So for this, it's very important that you use some sort of like bold font. I feel like works best. And I just trimmed the text layer to match the same length as the video layer. And what I was saying about the text is I think it's very important to do like some sort of bold font. So let's see. You want to go over to your properties, double click your text layer right here, go down to your font selection, and let's type in like bold. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, so like there's extra bold fonts, semi-bold fonts. There isn't a right or wrong for this. I would say whatever fits the aesthetic that you're trying to go for, but definitely try to do some sort of bold or some sort of condensed type of font. I've noticed works really well. Like what's this? Georgia bold. No, I don't really like that. Maybe like let's do like a sans one. maybe this Grill Sans could be cool. Grill Sans MT Bold. That looks pretty cool. So let's go ahead and use that. Now I just want to align the text, and let's type in what we want to name this title. I'm going to do Seaside, and then I'm going to press enter and type in Heights. You know, whatever you're going to use it for, I would type in whatever text matches that, and then I'm going to center align it. So I'll go over to the text section in my properties panel and center align that. Next, I want to realign it horizontally and realign it vertically so the text is nice and center within the frame. We're going to have to readjust that again, but next I want to go over to this, I think it's called leading or leading part. Leading, I think. And you want to crank this because I want to close the gap between the text just to try to fill the frame as much as possible. Something like that could be cool. And let's go ahead and realign this back to the center. Okay, next, what I like to do is I want to have the text fill the entire frame. So let's just crank up the font size all the way. That's looking fire. Again, we might have to go back in and adjust the leading because I really want the text to be touching each other. That's pretty cool. And you can also go over to the tracking section, and you could have your text a little bit more condensed if you want. This is personal preference. I think that could be cool. Something like that. And once you've already maxed out the font size, what I like to do is I go over to my effects controls and I go to the vector motion and I just scale that puppy all the way up. Let's say you also want the text to fill the entire border. Another thing that I've noticed is if you go over to the uniform scale and you adjust the scale height, it's going to distort the text a little bit. So maybe it might be best to find a font that already kind of fits the area and stuff that you're trying to go for. But that looks pretty solid. I'm not mad at that. So once you get your text into the position that works best for you and your project, the next thing that you want to do is you want to go over to your effects panel. Let's see, we got our effects right here, and we want to type in track matte key. So it's under video effects, keying, track matte key. So what we want to do is we want to apply this to the video layer. So make sure your text layer is one layer above your video layer, and you're going to be applying the effect to the video layer. Next, we'll go over to this matte section, and we're going to select whatever the text layer is on. So for me, it's video 2. And as you can see, it did exactly that. We got the video now playing within the text. And you could leave it just like this, or if you want, you could sauce it up and add some different overlays, some like film burn transitions, some like vintage transitions, really whatever you want. But this also works really, really well just as is. What I'm going to do is to get you guys closer to how I had it in the sample that I played for you. I'm going to go and use some of the assets that I have. So what I like to do is I put this little vintage border, and let me just scale that. So right click, scale the frame size. I'm going to want to adjust it because I don't really like having too much black borders. I just want like just a little bit. So I'll go over here and unclick uniform scale and adjust that until it's slightly showing the black. Yeah, like something like that's pretty cool. Very minimalist, very film looking. And then I want to adjust the blending mode. So we're going to do, let's say, multiply. And actually for this, it works really well because it creates a white background, but then you still get the black border. So it creates like an interesting effect and really makes like the text like pop out, which is something that I really like. And if you want to go back in and adjust like the distance, like let's say the distance on the bottom doesn't match the top, you can just go back to your text layer and just go over to position, and you can just adjust your, you can go over and adjust your position. Sorry, that was like a tongue twister right there. Yeah, something like that's pretty solid. Not mad at that. So let's just render that and I'll show you what it's looking like. There's a lot of different ways for you to incorporate this. Like if you're doing a music video, you could have this for like an ad lib or like specific lyrics that you want to like have pop out and like stand out. Or you could do this for like title sequences. Like that looks sick. That like looks really, really cool. It's gonna grab people's attention, especially in like the first couple seconds of a video, because it's just like flash, flash, flash. Like that's sick. But if you want to take this to another step, what we could do is really sauce this up. I actually have this film burn, so let me just drag this film burn in. You could really test this out with so many different things. Like if you actually have like built-in video effects, like a glow or something like that, that will also work really, really well. What I'm gonna do is I'll also send you guys, well not send you, I'll also provide this film burn for you as well. I'm just going to turn down that just so it doesn't get picked up in the microphone. All right, so to sell this effect with the overlay, as you can see, it kind of has like this like interesting graininess, film burn type of aesthetic, but it doesn't really look like much right now. But the best way to make this really stand out is playing with the blending mode. So you click the layer, go over to blend mode, and each of these blending modes is going to give you a different effect. I used, I believe, divide, or what I use, maybe subtract looks kind of cool too. But I think I used divide. What does difference look like? Difference is pretty cool. But I think I'm just going to stick with divide, because it gives it like this like pixelation kind of effect, which is really, really cool. Yeah, like that's tough. Let's render that just so we can play that through. And you could either have this effect like be a transition into it or a transition out of it. Like that's sick. Yeah, I really like that. You could even play with like the speed of it as well. The cool thing is also these film burns come with built-in sound effects. And something else that I did, I added more sound design to it. So like on each cut to the video that's inside this nested sequence, I added like a camera like click, like to kind of like sell the effect a little bit more. So you could use sound design to help amplify this visual effect. You could add different overlays such as film borders, film transitions, grain glitches, do some different things with like maybe like a glow effect, like if you want this to stand out a little bit more. This effect is very, very straightforward, but there's so many different ways to, you know, make this yours and make this pop. If you're having any difficulty with this, leave a comment below and I'd love to help you out. Just remember, make sure your text layer is above your video layer and you want to apply the effect to the video layer. Sometimes if you have it the opposite way, it may not work the same. It probably won't work the same. So that's the most important thing. And also on the effect, make sure that your composition using, or sorry, make sure your composite using is set to matte alpha. And I don't necessarily play with this reverse thing, but again, you guys can go in and tweak this to your liking. But let me know, should I make more tutorials just like this? If there's a specific effect or tutorial that you guys want me to make, let me know in the comments section below too, and I'll definitely look into that. If you've made it this far in the video, that really, really means so much to me. And this is something that I've always wanted to do, is just make personal content, help people out. So if you found this video useful, please like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe. And remember Keep leveling up your edits and keep creating and putting yourself out there. I hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.